season of Magic the Gathering Pro Play. I'm going to pass it on over to the booth with Marshall and Paul and hope for a good elf. Pack one, pick one.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. Welcome to the booth here at Pro Tour Lorwyn Eclipse. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. And we are at my favorite time of any Pro Tour, which is the moment right before the first draft gets going. And we're going to get to show you all of the picks from that. We're going to be following along with Seth Manfield here and seeing what he opens up. Paul, any big dreams if you're Seth and you're sitting down? You know, this is a format that is mostly on rails. There's 5 viable decks and then maybe a little bit to play with outside of that.
Yeah, I think kind of every player going in would like to kind of pick up the ideal elf deck. I think between the 5 kindred types, I think elves has proven itself to be the strongest thing. So if you can open up a rare that's kind of in those colors, let's say, you know, Tristan's Command, High Perfect Morkan, something along those lines, that's kind of where you want to start.
Take a look at the table here for our draft pod 1. These pods are done at random here. Tomorrow they will be based on where the players are at in the standings, but today it's just, you know, computer spits them out. So you see Seth Manfield there in the upper right, but he does have a stacked table. You know, I think that when you're a pro level player, you sit down and you take a look at your table and you kind of want to know, how many faces do I recognize here? And there's a bunch at this table. So Seth definitely didn't get away with it. He's going to have a tough pod.
Yeah, tons of players here with top finishes. We've seen plenty of these players in the feature match area over the course of the last couple of years. So yeah, this is not going to be an easy pod here. You know, one of the really important things in this format too is just kind of signal reading. You know, it's not going to be an easy draft. You're going to have to scrounge for those, you know, 20th to 23rd playable cards. But if anybody can do it, it's Seth Manfield.
Yeah, Seth is a superb Magic player overall, but do not sleep on his limited abilities. You know, he really made his name at the GP level playing limited, and then later kind of proved to us how good he was in general, where he's one of those players that's in that category where you say, like, who are the best limited players of all time? We often think of players who are good at limited and maybe not as good at constructed, but he's in that group that you could take a bunch of players from. You know, LSV's in there, Paulo, of course, you know, Kai, John, all of the top guys, they're good at both. Like, there's no, you don't differentiate at that level.
Yeah, I mean, if you kind of want to put yourself in kind of the top 10 players of all time discussion, yeah, you need to just be great at both, and Seth is exactly that.
Let's see what he opens up here. Pack 1, a pick 1. Oh, Champions of the Perfect.
There you go.
Oh,
this
is exactly what you said you would hope would happen if you were sitting in that seat.
Yeah, the Champions of the Perfect is just absolutely incredible. Slam dunk first pick here. Seth is really going to want to lean into the elf archetype. I mean, I've seen some people try to splash it with some changelings. It's a lot tougher to pull that off.
Right.
But yeah, great first pick here for Seth Manfield, opening one of the best rares in the set.
You mentioned Elves has been the #1 deck coming in. That also, though, means it could be the most contested deck coming in. So there's a bit of a double-edged sword here with opening an elf card like this. You're happy to get it, but it's like, all right, shields up.
Yeah, kind of proceed with caution type situation here. But Champions of the Perfect is one of the rare cards where, you know, even if it's contested, you try your best to make it work because it is that strong.
Looks like he has Assert Perfection, which isn't technically an elf card. It's just a green card, but it goes really well in the Elves deck, and it performs well in it, so it would be a perfectly good follow-up. The other card is Gnarlbark Elm, which is actually a pretty solid card, too. Yeah. It is not an elf, though.
Yeah, it is kind of in that fine, but
Gathering Stone. I did not see that.
It's kind of in that fine but slower category. I think if you want to cut off elves, I think Gathering Stone is the more flexible card here, but if you take the Assert Perfection, you're effectively cutting off green, and you're trying to set yourself up for a really strong pack, too.
Another thing to consider with cards like Gathering Stone, you know, that rewards you for having as many of your creature type as possible. And at a Pro Tour draft, that might not be so easy. This is going to get scrappy. People fight it out. You don't just get handed a great deck most of the time. Did I see a Blight Rot somewhere? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that's probably going to be the pick here. You know, one thing that you have to be mindful, of course, it's only just one pack, but no elves in this pack, right? So, you know, it's just one of those things where you still try to, you know, be in this color pair if possible. But look, you take the Blight Rot. If, let's say, Goblins is open, you can still make that pivot because you took just a solid removal spell.
Okay, so Elf, Bomb, and then 2 removal spells, but on color for that pair.
Yeah, so Liminal Hold. Ooh, okay. Yeah, Iron Shield
Iron Shield
Elf.
Elf, very nice.
Yeah, just a really, really solid creature. Again, this is the type of creature that, you know, in an elf deck, it's going to be fantastic. However, you can still put this into perhaps a Goblins deck if you're looking to pivot,
5
right?
seconds.
So this is just a great pickup here for Seth Manfield.
There was also a Dawn's Light Archer in the pack, which is also an elf, so
Draft.
a little
Shuffle and lay out 10 cards
hint there
to your
for
left.
him.
Yeah. We'll note that kind of that 3 mana slot in the elf deck is something where
your pack.
you don't have
You
to
have
really worry about
25
too much
seconds.
because of the existence of all the 3 mana changelings. You
Hey,
can play Gangly
there's one right
Stompling
now, but-
or Prideful Feastling.
Right. Okay, but another Assert Perfection. Again, interesting in that it is not actually an elf, but it is in many ways considered an elf card. And this really does solidify him, I think, as
5
there doesn't
seconds.
seem to be anything else in the pack.
Yeah, it's just the best card in the pack. And, you know, 5 picks in,
Draft.
I mean, this is still like a
Shuffle and
rock
lay
solid
out
start here.
9.
The only thing that Seth might be a little bit concerned about is just the lack of just a bunch of the elves that you're looking for, cards like Dawnhand, Eulogist, and all that stuff. But he's got 3 removal spells. He's got a bomb. So the deck so far is looking great as long as he can just continue trying to pick up elves along the way.
Let's take a look at where he would hope to go, given that he seems to be in elves at this point. Here's the pick so far, and you can see them in order. 2 elves, 3 removal spells, all on color. So this is a good start, no doubt about it. But where does he want to go from here? What would be the dream or, you know, optimistic picks for him?
Yeah, so starting things off with the commons here, you know, you just this format really kind of rewards you for sticking to your creature type. So you kind of want all elves if possible, and these are the cards that you're looking for. Scarblade Scout and Dawnhand Eulogist are both just excellent creatures that have that kind of self-mill effect, which is really important because the elves decks also tend to care about things in your graveyard, and there's a bit of a recursive theme as well.
Safe Right Cavalry, also just a solid 4-drop.
That's how you make a 4-mana 4/4 now, right? A 4-mana 4/4 vanilla is just not good enough. Safe Right Cavalry is good enough. This is all the text you need to actually have a 4-drop be competitive with, you know, kind of the evolution of limited over time.
Very annoying card once it's on the battlefield. What about uncommons that Seth would like to pick up here? Of course, Eclipsed Elf is the headliner there, as it's become basically the best uncommon in the set.
Yeah, and just taking a look at the uncommons here, this is, I think, a big part of why I believe Elves is probably the strongest of the Kindred types because of the uncommon payoffs. I mean, there's an Eclipse card in every color combination, right? But you have cards like Morkant's Eyes and Morkant's Loyalist, which are just kind of outperforming a lot of the other signpost uncommons, and both of these cards are just excellent. Morkant's Eyes, whenever you play that thing in the late game, you're just like, oh, I'm going to lose.
Yes.
Like, you're just going to make 6 or 7 tutus, and it's going to be great. And then, of course, Loyalist, also fantastic. Great Elf Lord. Also, by the way, getting any Elf cards. So when it dies, you can even get back a card like Morkant's Eyes out of the graveyard.
And if you're a dreamer, we're dreamers here in the booth, you can think about the rares and what might come up. And
You got some good ones.
I mean, this is another reason why Elves has emerged as the best deck, is because at every rarity slot, it's either it's above average at all of them, basically. I mean, these payoffs, you know, the other decks have good payoffs too, but these are just unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tristan's command, among the best commands in the format. High Perfect, Morkant, great. Gloom Ripper, also fantastic. So if Seth can pick up another copy of one of these, or maybe another copy of Champion of the Perfect, that's exactly where he wants to be.
All right, well, assuming that he sticks with Elves, these are the type of cards that he wants. Let's find out how the rest of Pack 1 and, in fact, the rest of the draft go for Seth right now.
Shuffle and lay out 9
Coming into
cards
Pack
to your
1,
left.
pick 6 here.
Pick up
And
your
we'll
pack.
see
You have 20
if the
seconds.
elves are flowing. That is what he wants to see. Just some of those common elves would be, ooh.
Yeah.
Can't see any of them here.
Yeah, got like a
Wow, is there any
Dawn's Light Archers.
cards here?
No, I mean, there's a Foraging Wickermaw, which is okay. If you want to perhaps lean into a little bit of
5
a vivid
seconds.
sub-theme, you can take that. Wanderbrine Preacher is an okay 2-drop, but you only really want that in the
Draft.
Merfolk decks. You don't even love it
Shuffle
in
and
the
lay out
Kithkin deck.
8
So,
cards to
yeah,
your
just
left.
taking the Foraging Wickermaw. Sometimes, you know, your drafts don't go perfectly, and you just need a 2-mana
up your
card,
pack. You
and
have
that's kind of
20
where you would
seconds.
play the Foraging Wickermaw.
Code Splitter Gang.
Yeah, and for those of you thinking that Dream Harvest is a bomb level card, it's not. It's very expensive. There's a high level of variance to
5
it. So for all of you There's going to be a lot of people who are going to want Seth to take that card, but I think the more sound
Correct.
pick here is just taking something like a Bile
Pass.
Boggart.
7
This is a
cards
best
to
of
your
3
left.
setting. If you play against a Kithkin deck, this is an excellent sideboard card. If you're short playable cards,
Pick
you
up
can
your
still
pack,
kind
you
of
have
use this to
15
fill out
seconds.
your mana curve.
Concern level rising here, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, look, we just went back-to-back picks with
5 seconds.
0 elves. I mean, we're looking at Dawn, we want Dawn Archers or whatever. We want a Rooftop Percher.
Draft.
We want a Changeling. Seth's not able to pick
Pass.
up any of
6
these.
cards to your
So, I mean,
left.
this is a clear indication, and it's not surprising that, there are elf
Pick up
drafters
your
to his
pack.
right. It
You
looks
have
like
10
perhaps
seconds.
1, maybe even 2.
Yeah, those last 3 picks, none of them would be happy in an elves build. Like, he'd prefer to not
And
play
draft.
any of them.
Yeah, there's an elf here in Chitinous
pass
Graspling,
5
but it's
cards
such a
to your
weak
left.
card. 4 mana for a 3/4 is just not stats that you want.
up your
So
pack.
Seth actually
You have
preferring to
10
take something
seconds.
like a Blighted Blackthorn as a way to, look, if your deck doesn't go perfectly, you can still kind of grind people out with the Blackthorn there.
There's another Bile Boggart,
Draft.
But he
again,
Pass
these are just
4
not
cards to your left.
cards he'd prefer to
he
run.
hasn't actually picked up
Pick
a
up your
card
pack.
that
You
he
have
would be
5
happy
seconds.
playing in his deck since the 5th pick.
Right. It's
Draft.
too late to, like, consider
Pass.
a different
3 cards to your
archetype at
left.
this point, right?
I-
it's more about just
Pick up
scrapping
your
to get
pack.
Based on
playables.
yeah,
5
based on
seconds.
what I'm seeing here from Seth's picks, I think he's basically just locked into elves here and kind of hoping it
Draft.
works out.
Pass.
He's done a
2
really
cards
good
to your
job of
left.
also basically taking every
Pick up the
single
pack, you
green
have
or black
5
card in
seconds.
pack number 1. So I wouldn't be shocked if pack 2 goes much better for him. But it
Draft.
has to go
Please pass
really
the
well
last
for him
card.
because we know that
At
pack
this
3 is
point,
not going
you're
to
gonna
go
have
as
a
ideally as
60-second
you'd
review
like.
period. You may
So a
begin
lot
that now.
riding on pack 2 for Seth Manfield because the start was pretty solid. Take a look at those first 5 picks and you're like, yeah, this is good, especially at a PT table. But the rest of the pack was bad. I mean, wow, like literally you could just erase all those cards and, I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't play them, in even an average elf deck, let alone an ideal one.
Yeah, look, I think on average, when you're doing a draft, you kind of want to pick up about 8 playable cards in every pack, right? That lets you kind of put 23 to 24 of those cards. But right now, I'm looking at 5 cards I'm happy playing, and then you're going to have to kind of mix and match between the Blighted Blackthorns and the Bile Boggarts right now. So again, Seth needs to, pick up a bunch of good playable picks in pack number 2 and also hope to wheel some because right now, with only 5 good cards, he's not in a great spot.
Yeah, the only, outside of the synergies that tend to form when you get a whole bunch of elves together, he doesn't have cards that really rely on that outside of the champions right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, that's also why you
Players
want to
that is
play
the
the
time
deck,
in
so
the second period,
you do
please
hope to get those.
Yeah, I just don't see
Please
like a
place all
good
your cards in
avenue
a
to
single
pivot
face-down
here
pile.
based on what he has, right?
As we begin pack
Got a
B,
couple of
when
Bile
you're drafting the cards,
Boggars, but
please
it's not
put
like
all
we
of the
saw a
cards
bunch
you're
of the
drafting into that
Goblin
same
uncommon
pile you
payoffs.
made,
And
so you still have
Goblins is an
one
archetype that
single
I'm
face-down
actively
pile.
looking to
At
avoid
this point, please
unless
pick up the
it is very
one
clear
labeled
that it's open
1B,
because,
take off the wrapper,
I think
count, and
Goblins is the
verify there are
weakest
14
where,
cards face
it's
down.
not unplayable.
No.
But you need to basically be the only Goblins drafter at the table to have a successful deck. And I just feel like somebody else is already in Goblins based off of the packs that we've seen.
And it feels like a couple of players are also in elves, but
Good. Okay. At this point,
Seth is
pick up your
really
pack, you're
banking
gonna
on
have 40
having
seconds.
cut as much as he could in that first pack. Can he recover here in pack 2? There's a Gathering Stone, though that's really kind of dropping in value for him just because he doesn't have a lot of elves at this
He's
point.
got 2 elves, right?
Yeah.
Out of the first 5 picks, he picked up an Iron Shield Elf and a Champions of the Perfect. So normally, I love Gathering Stone.
Same.
Most of my decks are going to have 12 to 13 of the same creature type. But here, it might be a little bit better to just go with something like a Graveshifter, which you know is going to be a card that's always going to be good, right? It's always going to just be a solid card you play in your deck. Whereas the
5
upside of the
seconds.
Gathering Stone is much greater, right? If you're going into pack number 2 and you have 6 elves already, yeah, just
Draft.
take the Gathering
Slam.
Stone.
Shuffle and lay out 13
So this
cards
makes a
to
lot of
your
sense.
right.
Seth going, look, I might have to kind of scrap here. I'm not sure how many elves I'm going to end up with. Let's take the Graveshifter. It's an elf, right? It lets me
up your pack.
behold my
35
Champions of the Perfect,
seconds.
and it's always just going to be a solid card.
Let's see what he gets here. Oh, there's a Scarblade Scout. That is the type of card that he's looking to fill out. Oh, an Eclipse Elf at the back of the pack. Oh, a little prize waiting for him at the end there.
Yeah, we kind of call that, a mythic uncommon here. If you are kind of one of the kindred color combinations, you absolutely want to just take all the Eclipse cards that you can get, and Eclipsed Elf is certainly one of the best ones here. So huge gift. Great start here for Seth Manfield. He has doubled his elf count already. 2 picks into pack 2.
That's right. 2 for 2 so far.
Draft.
Including an excellent
Shuffle
pickup
and
there
pass.
with Eclipsed Elf.
12
Now, he
cards
does
to
still
your
need to
right.
get his elf count up where it's at to make Eclipsed Elf really good, but he's on his way here with
Pick up your
2 for
pack.
2 so
You have
far.
30 seconds.
He also just picked up 2 great cards to behold off of the champions, right?
Yes.
Both of these are elves that come in and play and give you value. Then you behold, exile that card. If your champions are the perfect dice, well, you get to cast Eclipsed Elf again.
Yeah, and if it doesn't die, you win.
Right.
It's an easy game. Is there an elf here?
I see a Dawn's Light
Farmer.
Archer.
Oh, Dawn's Light Archer. Okay.
Look, again, this is one of those things where it's like at this point, if you
5
see a playable creature with creature type elf, you're just going to put it into your deck. So I imagine, Seth
Draft.
isn't happy about a 3rd pick Dawn's Light
Shuffle and
Archer, but
pass
he's going to take it
11
here.
Cards to your right.
Well, this is definitely
Pick up your
going
pack.
better from the
You have
elf
25
perspective.
seconds.
Okay.
There's a Scarblade Scout.
Yeah, and he certainly needs more 2-drops here. There's a Safe Right Cavalry, but I think he's more interested in just making sure you have enough 2-drops here. So I think Scarblade Scout is probably what Seth Manfield's going to go for here. I think the only 2-drop here he has right
5
now is an
seconds.
Iron Shield Elf.
Yeah, he'll be happy to pick up that Scout.
Also really great with Assert
Draft.
Perfection because it has lifelink,
Shuffle
so
and pass
get
10
to gain a
cards
bunch of
to
life
your right.
back.
Well, he's 4 for 4.
Hey,
So I
25
guess he did do a good job of cutting.
he's
There's
tripled his
another
elf
one.
count.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's an Iron Shield Elf. So clearly nobody to the left of Seth is an elves, and I would be shocked if they were, honestly, because Seth didn't get any elves himself. So, this is kind of what we needed here for Seth Manfield to put together and kind of salvage a tricky start to the
5
draft.
seconds.
This card is just so annoying, right? Just
It really
you
is.
play
Shuffle and
Kithkin
pass
deck, and your
9
opponent plays
cards
an
to
Iron
your
Shield
right.
Elf, and you go, what do I even do?
Right.
Pick up your pack. You have 20 seconds.
And that's his second one of those, so that'll be really nice.
Look
There's
at these
another
2-drops. They just
Scarblade
keep
Scout.
coming. Yeah, and I mean, he's going to happily take this here. Scarblade Scouts, and now we have 4 2-drops, so we're looking at a good curve. He has the 3 removal spells that we saw already. Champions of
5
the perfect. This pack is going fantastically here so far for Seth Manfield.
Draft.
Now, you're not seeing a ton of the uncommons,
Shuffle and pass
but
8
still,
cards to your
you're
right.
just filling out your curve. You got the 2-drops. I mean,
Pick
if
up
I'm
your
Seth
pack, you have
Manfield, I am
20
just
seconds.
thrilled with this pack.
Incredible pack for him. And he hasn't. There's another elf. A Stoic Grove Guide.
Yeah.
He's 6 for 6, and this could be number
Yes,
7.
I mean 6 for 6, and now you get to kind of replace the Blighted Blackthorn here, and instead you can just
5
play the
seconds.
Stoic Grove Guide. You have a little bit of self-mill going on. That's kind of what you want to do with this card.
Right.
You kind of play a
Draft.
Scarblade Scout, get
Pass
this into your
7
graveyard,
cards
get
to
a
your
little
right.
bit of value, but in the late game, it's still just a 5/4 that you can kind of
Pick up
convert
your
into a
pack.
2/2
You have
later on.
15
Right, 2
seconds.
Iron Shield Elves, also good with the Grove Guide.
Yeah, and look, this is a Changeling, a Gangly Stompling, which also counts as an elf. You're just going to be totally fine
5 seconds.
playing any number of these 3-mana Changelings to kind of hit your elf quota. And by the way, 8 elves
That's
in a
8
row.
for 8?
So Seth went from 2 elves in pack 1 to now 10. Now I bet he's maybe thinking, should I have taken the Gathering Stone? But of course,
This is still a Grove
I mean,
Guide.
look, it's impossible to predict you're going to get this many elves in a row, right?
That's 9 in a row.
It's 9 elves in a row now. Seth now has
What
11
the-
elves from 2 in
Pick up
pack
your
1.
pack.
That's wild. He
10 seconds.
solved his curve and number of elves problem in one pack. Seriously, a Scarblade Scout
So
here?
that is probably
That's on the wheel.
that is probably the
Draft.
biggest
Pass.
gift here
4
because
cards
Scarblade
to
Scout
your
is a fantastic card in the elf deck. If you're an elf player,
Pick up your
you
pack.
probably
You have
would have
5
been interested in
seconds.
taking that card. So Seth, I mean, that's like the pick you're kind of doing the fist bump on
Draft.
because when you table that card,
Yes.
all of a sudden, I
Cards
mean,
to your
Seth
right.
now has 10 playable cards
your pack.
that he got
You
from
have
pack number
5
2
seconds.
to make up for the 5 that he got in pack 1. Now we're looking at 15 cards.
He's right back in business. It also,
Draft.
could
Pass 2 cards
mean
to your right.
that there
You have
just
5
wasn't
seconds.
that many elves open.
Yeah,
Pick up your pack.
Like,
that
how
definitely
did that come
happens.
around 10th pick to him? If there's one
Draft.
or maybe even 2
Pass
other
the last
elves
card.
player at the table, somebody
At this
would have
point, you're gonna
taken
have
that.
a 90-second review
Absolutely.
period. You
So
may
that
begin
could mean
now.
that pack 3 opens back up for him. in a way that maybe we wouldn't have predicted, but
Yeah, I mean, it's also one of those things where somebody could have given up, right?
that's true.
Early
Oh, yeah.
on, somebody takes a lot of the elf cards because they know it's the strongest thing to do, and then at some point you go, you know what? It's just not open. I'm going to have to pivot. I'm going to have to draft goblins or black-white or Kithkin or something along those lines.
Yeah, when you're evaluating signals in draft, it's really handy to treat them each as an individual data point rather than try to hang your hat on, well, I got this back, therefore. So it's just one data point, but it's a strong one. I mean, that seriously is like one of the top commons for elves, and getting it 10th pick
I mean, look at this.
is a sign.
Seth just put all of those cards that he was like, man, am I going to have to play all of this junk that I got in pack number 1? And he's like, nope, all the way to the back. And now you have a nice kind of streamlined deck here with 12 or 13 elves with 3 removal effects. Just kind of a really, really solid combination here, especially for a Pro Tour draft.
Man, 10 in a row for Manfield there.
Not bad. Not bad when you need 10 elves.
It's funny, the mentality, like coming out of pack 1, I'm just hoping like, I'm hoping for this pack, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just like over the top bombs or crazy uncommons,
no.
but it was like all the commons you want basically outside of the eulogist, and you just fill out your curve and your creature count. Now I'm greedy again. Going into 3, I'm like, let's get some more Eclipse Elves going, open up a rare.
Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal here. So Seth,
When you bargain with the magic gods, you know, you have to know where you stand.
hey, you know what? I do feel like, I mean, Seth is the world champion, so, you know, he can maybe take some bad beats here, right? He kind of used it all in that one event. But of course you want to run it back.
I don't know, dude. I've been covering Seth for years, and
He
bad
always
beats
wins.
are not the thing that he takes.
That's true.
Pick up the pack. You have 40
He delivers. All right, pack 3, pick one coming in here. Ooh, listen on a Dignitary. Very solid uncommon. Anything else?
Yeah, the rare is a Blood Crypt there, so
Okay.
it kind of has to be the Dignitary. The Blossoming Defense is a fine combat trick, but I think you would still rather just make sure you kind of take all the uncommon elf payoffs when you see them.
Yeah, I love that Lissalana Dignitary. Really powerful, and he has, you know, this is, again, the synergies of the elf deck really do make themselves apparent, and this is where you're like, well, you know, getting a few mill elves, who really cares? Well, you know, these type of things really do start to add up when you see cards like this.
Yeah, and the elf deck is just so good at enabling all of that with Scarbleed Scout, Lissalana Informant, and Dawnhand Eulogist. And Midnight Tilling. I mean, you just have 4 commons that mill yourself.
That's right. And they really don't ask anything of you either. That's the thing. They are borderline playable without the mill text.
Right. This pack is a little bit underwhelming. I guess there's a Blossoming Defense. This might be a pack where, at this point, Seth has already kind of a bunch of the C-level commons from the elf deck here. Might be interested in another interactive spell. He did pick up the 3 removal spells early on in pack 1, but that's kind of it for interaction. So you still have room for, you know, 3 more slots maybe for tricks, and Blossoming Defense is certainly one of the better ones.
It is. If you're going to play a combat trick in this format, that's the one you want. They're, you know, for the most part, you want to keeping on creature type and enabling your synergies. But, you know, there are kind of 2 builds of elves that pop up, right? There's the more grindy mid-range one, and then there is a little more assertive curve-out one.
Yep.
And if he ends up in that second category, then he'll be happy to have the Blossoming Defense.
So a few options here, Lissalana Informant, Tam, and Boxslither's Embrace. I do think Seth could use a 4th removal spell. He's currently on the double Assert Perfection and a Blighted Rot. So I think picking up a Boxslither's Embrace is kind of the responsible pick here, and Seth is not short on 2-mana plays. He basically got all the 2-mana cards that he wanted in pack number 2. So I like this pick here, just picking up a removal effect for, you know, other bombs you could play against. And the Exile text, also very relevant on Boxslither's Embrace.
You have 25 seconds.
See a Glisterbairn, Mischievous. Sneakling is technically an elf, although again, Seth does have a ton of 2-mana plays already. And you know, this is a card, by the way, and I'm glad Seth has it up at the front. It's a card that's been kind of overperforming. You look at the Rooftop Percher, and you're like, oh, this doesn't look that exciting. It's a 5-mana 3/3 flyer, but the Graveyard Hate matters. You know, you're going to play against other elf decks, and the 3 life also matters, and it just happens to be an elf. So, you know, Seth doesn't have a million things to do at the top end, so, you know, just having a little bit of evasion and some life gain can be nice.
interesting that there's been a few common elves filtering through, but it does still feel like he's being cut.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he had to take a 4th pick Rooftop Percher, and 5th pick, there's not an elf in sight here. So, yeah, pack 2 absolutely saving Seth here, because we're going to have to but based on how this pack is going, I think we're going to have to play some filler here to round out this deck. And Dose of Dawnglow, that kind of counts as a filler level card here. It's a reanimation effect. I guess if you do have a really great creature to get back with a bunch of self-mill. Why is there a Brigid in the pack here?
Wow.
That is wild. This is pick 6. I suppose Kithkin are not really being drafted here, but I don't think there was a clear indication that Kithkin was where you're supposed to be in pack 1. But I mean, now you see this in pack 1, you take that Brigid and figure things out. But Seth is locked in here into the elf deck, not going to take the Brigid.
Yeah, he's just going to take Stoic Grove Guide number 3.
You have 20 seconds.
He can take advantage of it, though. We mentioned he's got a good amount of mill elves and then also discard at his available to him to really take advantage of Stoic Grove Guide's activated ability from the graveyard, which is kind of where you want to be.
So there's a Prideful Feastling or Guiltleaf's Embrace, and Seth actually going for the Guiltleaf's Embrace here just to have an extra trick. Feastling is just, again, just kind of like a replacement level elf, but Seth's elf count at this point is quite high. It's looking at 13 or 14, so going for the trick.
Yeah, and Embrace is kind of the other card that, like, if you are trying to do the beatdown elves version, it does pull its weight.
Yeah.
You can apply enough pressure to your opponent that they're forced to do a block that maybe they don't like, and the Embrace is kind of a blowout in that scenario. It's a little pricey.
It is, but you do kind of get your value the turn that you get to cast it and eat a blocker.
There's a Scarblade's Malice as well. That one, different kind of combat trick. That's one that you can use to win combat. But generally speaking, it's a little bit more defensive. Like if you've got elves that you really want to insulate yourself against removal, where they use removal spell, you get at least an elf back.
Yeah, it's particularly good with a card like Dawnhand Eulogist because it's a menace creature, and then you have to double block it, and then you can kill 2 things, gain some life, and get some value, which Seth currently doesn't have any.
I would be surprised to see him play it though. As this deck does look very curve out to me. He didn't end up getting a ton of the graveyard synergies. We talked about a few of them. It's not 0, but it doesn't really seem to be the focal point of this deck.
Yeah, part of the strength of kind of an optimal or optimized elf deck is the fact that you can curve out and have the ability to kind of grind into the late game. I don't know that this deck kind of has that late game element to it, but of course you do have the Champions of the Perfect and the Graveshifter, so if you can find a way to mill yourself and then kind of get to the point where you can get that Champions in play, you can kind of grind out games that way. But we don't see a Morkant's Loyalist, there is not an Unbury, right? There's Morkant's Eyes. You don't have any of those super late game cards, but at the same time, I did think that pack 2 absolutely saved Seth. I think if you don't get that pack 2 and every single elf, right, we're looking at a deck that's going to have to play a bunch of filler. But as is, because he was able to get those 10 or 11 cards in pack number 2, I think he kind of put together a solid elf deck with a bomb, with some interaction. It's got a good curve. I mean, it's kind of what you're looking for in a draft deck, especially at a Pro Tour. Let's curve out and just see what happens.
See what he's got here for his build. I'm kind of looking for the combat tricks. Yes, Blossoming Defense. Oh, 2 Guiltleaf's Embrace made the cut. So, he's playing, a very board-centric curve-out deck here, Paul. Every single card that he's playing is either a removal spell, a combat trick, or a creature.
Yeah, and this is just... Like, you look at this deck, and yeah, it's not going to be the same as kind of what you see when you play online or at your local store, where you play against a person with 4 Eclipse Marrows or something. But I think for a Pro Tour draft, Seth's got to be thinking, I know I was in a contested lane, but I still put together a deck that I think is still quite solid. I have a good curve, I have tricks, and I have interaction. If I sequence my spells properly, you can still put together a good finish with a deck like this. I mean, that combination, Guiltleaf's Embrace on an Iron Shield Elf, that's going to be really, really tough to stop when you're going up against that combination.
I like this build. This is the type of deck that I'd love to sit down with at the PT. It's clean, it's straightforward, and it can get wins in the hands of a great player like Seth Manfield. We are going to take a short break here from Richard. We'll be back with more right after this.